Yeah, so we got it's kind of an interesting race here because we got like a couple of two top runners and a couple of newer runners that are doing this race right now. We got Ppotdot1 and FeralPigMan, who are very seasoned in this game, and MelloFlowz and Resistingframe, who are a bit newer to it, especially Resistingframe. He just started running that this year.
Yeah, no, particularly interesting. Like, it's kind of funny saying this year when we're in February, but yeah, it's
right.
He's only been playing this game for like 2 months basically, so got a solid time already. He's down to a 36.06, with the world record being low 30 or rather high 32. So it's definitely a solid time. But yeah, we're off to the races. As you can see, everybody's doing the same stage. So the beauty of Mega Man 5 is, unlike some other Mega Man games where you may see people take like different routes at the beginning, Mega Man 5 is very, very set. Everybody's going to go to Starman, and they're going to continue in the weakness order until they're done. That never changes, unless you make a mistake.
It's true.
Fortunately, it does happen.
Unfortunately, FeralPigman makes a mistake.
You hate to
just
see
not
it.
that kind of mistake, yeah. So, unfortunate death. Deaths are pretty long in this game, so that's going to eat into his time quite a bit.
Yeah, especially Starman, it can be very punishing. Starman is a very, very hard first stage, as you can just see with Feral dying. There's just a lot of areas for you to die, a lot of opportunities for you to just like take damage when you don't want to. So, very technical stage, starting right off the bat. So, not terribly surprising to see somebody take a death here, but pretty much all the other competitors doing pretty well getting into Starman.
Now, fighting Starman isn't too difficult. Just get a Charge Buster going, and you can actually shoot through his shield if you put your hand aside of the shield. The thing that's kind of tricky is he seemingly, and you would know a bit more than this than me, but as to when his pattern is, it's seemingly random as to when he decides to throw the Star Crash at you.
Yep, it is random. It's a little bit different. I think it's a little bit different based on your position, but for the most part, it's pretty random.
Yeah.
So you just have to react appropriately, based on when it's going down. But yeah, the timing for being like, or the distance for being able to shoot a Buster through the shield is not like super precise. So it's fairly easy to get those shots in. You just have to make sure you don't like stand too close.
Right, looks like Feral missed his grab skip. A few of them got it though. You can do a tiny hop right at the end of that and forego the space physics of the stage. Get out a little faster.
Yeah. So the reason why we have everybody do Star first is because you do get the Super Arrow, which, as you can see at Ppotdot screen, is a very, very useful tool. Allows you to kind of get through areas that otherwise might take a little bit of time. Some key facts about the Super Arrow is it requires 2 energy, or rather, it takes away 2 energy when you use it. And while Mega Man is on the arrow, it continues to use energy while it's traveling. You only need 1 energy in order to fire one, though. So if you have 1 energy, it fires no problem. And that's really nice because when you conserve your energy properly, there are a few instances where you end up with just 1 energy. So it's very useful.
Yeah, speaking of conserving energy, what you got to do is just like run off the tip of the arrow, but not too soon because otherwise you run off before the arrow actually picks up its momentum.
Yeah. And you do notice that some of the players, or rather all the players, are getting the letters. So there's like letters in all the 8 Robot Master stages. And when you get them, you spell Mega Man 5 or Rockman 5 if you're playing the Japanese version, which all these competitors are playing the Japanese version. And that gives you Beat. Beat is a wonderful little bird that can be annoying at times, but generally is a very cooperative bird, and it is very useful in some of the boss fights in the Darkman and Wiley stages. Technically doesn't save time, however, it is a huge RNG mitigator, so most people will opt to get it.
Yeah, for sure. Gravity Fight is pretty scripted, actually. He does the exact same thing every time, same pattern, so you can always just follow him around the room where you need to. There are ways to go faster. Ppot actually got the half task strat. There is a faster version than what he did, but lets you get 1 more hit in before that cycle actually ends, normally.
Yeah, it is a very difficult trick to pull off. Basically, runners like Ppot who have 33, which is like, what, 8 or 9 runners at this point that have it. Those are pretty much the only people that are going to be going for that trick. It is incredibly precise. The good thing about that trick is if you mess it up in the right way, it doesn't really lose you any time. So
yeah. Now on to Gyroman Stage. Lots of vertical sections in it, and you get to see our first real usage of the arrow over very large sections. Just it's so much faster to use that speed to get across and fly over everything.
Yep. Oh, I respect it. Ppot was going for the Ppot went for the quick D-boost there off the Stomper. It is really hard to get, so I respect the strat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a Gyro is a fairly fairly simple stage. It's just using your Buster and your arrow. Is really not a whole lot going on. The Buster in general is very, very strong in this game because it's really an anti-mashers game. There's a lot of invulnerability between shots when you're fighting just regular mobs or the bosses themselves. So you don't really want to mash. Instead, you just make copious usage of the Buster because it does a lot of damage. Generally will one-shot a lot of things, so you will see a lot of Buster over the course of the run.
It's also very wide, so you can get a lot of hits off just based on position, just because it'll be, twice the size of what it would be normally.
Yeah.
Another thing,
Gyroman, and it's gone.
Yeah, you see Gyroman and it's gone. That's true. Yeah, one of the faster fights to get through, if not the fastest.
Yeah.
Something to note about Buster, though, which makes movement in this game very tricky and very interesting, is that it doesn't charge while you're sliding. So there are actually forced walking sections throughout it to make sure you have that Buster so you can kill certain enemies in order to progress faster afterwards.
Yep, absolutely. So far, it's a really solid race. All 4 competitors are pretty close to each other. Ppot taking that. Yeah, Ppot taking that lead. Just the better movement, but overall, yeah. Aside from Feral's death, everybody's doing really well right now. We are coming into Crystal Man, which is, I think, the hardest of the 8 Robot Master stages. A lot can go wrong if it does go wrong, and even a lot of little things can go wrong too. It just kind of costs you time. So you just gotta be very careful. Once you get past the first few screens that looks like everybody is able to do, except Feral's getting through right now. Once you get past these screens with the arrows, then it's a lot easier, but dying in the first few screens is really, really bad, so I definitely don't want to do that.
That first mouse in this room that Ppot kills gets me every time. I can never kill it. It's the hardest thing in the game.
It's tough. Alright. Coming to this RNG section. You don't want these little droppers here to drop drops. Unfortunately, you have to kill 6 of them. If it drops, it drops. It is what it is. Coming to Crystal Man now for Ppot. Good stage. Basically, Crystal's going to fire 4 shots at the beginning. You want to get hit by 3 of them to reduce some lag. And then you just kind of want to alternate your shots while you're kind of jumping up and down and reacting to the patterns. The patterns that Crystal does a little bit random. It can jump up and then fire a bullet at you, or it can jump up and jump down. And it just kind of depends. It can jump up and down for 3 times, or it can just do 1 jump and fire a bullet at you each time. So you kind of have to react to the patterns, but everybody doing really well.
Then on to Napalm Man Stage. It's my favorite song in the game. Absolutely love this song.
It's pretty good. I say that as a noted MM5 music hater. Napalm is pretty good.
Yeah. That's actually kind of interesting about this game. A lot of the Mega Man games, it's oh yeah, this is the definitive song of that game, and this one is one that a lot of people don't seem to agree on. This game, everyone has a different favorite.
Yep.
A lot of very good tracks.
Alright, so I see all the competitors are getting past the Crusher section here. You don't want to get hit by this, because as you can tell, getting hit by spikes probably results in death, right? So yeah, it will result in a death. And you have to be a little bit careful. It does take 3 shots to kill it, but if you're just off a little bit on those bullets, like we were talking about earlier, that invulnerability period. You hit that invulnerability period and you think you didn't, and then you fire those 3 shots, and then it doesn't die, and then you slide into it and you die. So you have to be a little bit careful with your shots there.
I'm curious to see what strats everyone will come to or do use going into these next few rooms. Ppot swaps to Gravity Hold in order to clear off these missiles on the screen. But you'll see Feral there is the only one actually that did it differently. He's going to use a Crystal Eye, using that early instead, which is trickier to use, but you also don't have to use another menu later on.
It's true. Yeah, it is a very hard trick to get because it's very... Not only do you have to fire the shots right to kill the things that you need to kill, but you also need to time them right to get as little lag as possible. Alright, so Ppot taking care of Napalm, no problem. Napalm is a fairly easy fight. The key thing that you want to avoid is you don't want to be too close to Napalm, because if you are too close, Napalm ends up firing his napalm shots rather than the missiles. And while it is easy to dodge the napalm shots, they do produce more lag. So you basically are trying to time your shots such that you keep firing while also staying away far enough from napalm, so that way you do not have that extra lag. And everybody did that fight really well.
Yes.
Good lord, this is such a close race. Holy moly.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, seeing 3 people on the same end screen still.
This is incredible. Yeah, Feral and Resisting are basically neck and neck, like tied. You see, like even with the death, Feral's able to just slightly go ahead of Resisting just based on like movement alone.
On the Stoneman stage, this is both a tricky stage and an easy stage, just based on what room you go through. There's a lot of tricky areas that are really hard, but then like everything else mellows out.
Yeah, I'd say there's not a lot of places where you can die in Stoneman, but there's a lot of places where you can take unintentional damage. So really, it comes down to just like optimizing your movement, making sure you're moving well throughout all the sections, killing squeaks like
Yes.
Ppot was able to do. Very important.
Very important.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of little things that can go wrong in this stage that kind of are a little bit annoying. Or maybe if you have too many little things going wrong, you could just legitimately die from too much damage. That has happened to me more than once.
We'll also start seeing some extensive use of the rush jet in this game, which you kind of get used to various heights that you call rush at. A couple of them are like A-B inputs, otherwise you have to roll B to A or A to B depending on where you are on the screen vertically.
Okay, RF did quite the rush jet strat in that room. I've never seen somebody do it that way. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that was cool.
Here's also another difference that you can see between strats on the stage. So Feral and Ppot went and used Napalm Bomb early, but you could also swap to Gravity Hold, which the other two have done, which gets you through the screen with less lag, but it does have the extra menu to it.
Alright, also fairly standard fight here. Generally, you know, you're just at the mercy of RNG, but, you know.
Resistingframe got the angriest stone.
You know, sometimes it'd be like
all
that.
high jumps.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it's random when Stone decides to jump up and, like, do a big jump and go back down immediately, or do small hops so you can hit him more. So you're just kind of at the mercy of Stone Man. Nobody got the happy stone, which is very unfortunate, but, you know.
Very unfortunate.
Can't always be happy, you know? Alright, since the competitors are not here to speak, Terex, I believe it's up to you to dedicate the chicken room.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
yeah, I gotta put that pressure on you.
Who's in chat right now? Do we have to dedicate one for each person?
If you want to.
We're gonna scroll up and stop. All right, this is going to Polar Bear Bunny. Congratulations, right. You've won the chicken room dedication.
Yeah, so affectionately we dedicate the chicken room to somebody or someone or something. The chicken room is quite difficult. Ooh, Ppot got a lucky drop. That is nice. So getting that lucky arrow drop is cool because it allows him to fire an arrow on this next screen. It's a little bit precise. Let's see if he can get it. That is high enough, so excellent. So that's about a 2 or 3 pixel window to get that arrow. It is really hard to get. But because of that RNG drop, he basically just saved like a couple seconds over Feral. So sometimes it pays to be lucky.
Indeed.
Now we
Now,
are
it will
heading
throw
into
off his charge strats a bit, because otherwise you would start the fight with a half charge shot on towards Charge Man, and then a full charge one, and then swap to Power Stone mid-fight. But since he didn't have to do that, swap to charge early, or excuse me, the Buster early, then he just swaps to the Power Stone.
Yeah, so well done. Charge Man with the Power Stone is one of the it's the hardest fight in this game, and to get it right. Because what the competitors are doing is, MelloFlowz, to be careful. Okay, option 2 is an E-Tank. What the high level competitors like Ppotdot and Feral are doing, I didn't quite see what Resisting and Mello were doing, is they are timing their shots in such a way that all 3 Power Stones go into Charge Man, which is great because you can only use Power Stone once all 3 shots are gone from the screen. So what like a lot of runners will do is they'll just like fire one at Charge Man, pause, and then unpause because that gets rid of the stones. But if you're really, really good and you try to do the really hard strat, you can just fire all your stones into Charge Man if you time it correctly. It saves a few seconds over the pause strat, but it is very difficult to pull off. But Feral and Ppotdot were able to get it, so that's cool.
And now we have one of the most important tricks in the game. So we'll see who can grab the double bubble skip. Alright, Ppotdot is through on that. So as you can see, these screens are meant to be kind of a pseudo auto-scroller. You're supposed to ride the bubbles up the screen on the big bubbles. But if you time your arrows right, you can land on the small bubbles at the top and have them carry you across instead, which saves a lot of time.
Yeah. And then... Oh my... Okay. So Feral... So as you can see in Ppotdot's screen, he is invisible because Mega Man's walking on water. What Ppotdot did is he skipped the cutscene trigger to get the boat. So instead he just like went over to the next screen and he's on the water. It's great because it allows you to kill the mini boss a little bit faster. And you don't have to go through the boat cutscene and all that, so that's good. For Feral, on the other hand, he slid a little bit early, which is unfortunate because if you slide too early, you don't get to the next screen. But you land in the wrong spot, you will actually soft lock your game. So Feral recognized that he slid a little bit early there, wasn't sure if he was going to quite make it to the next screen, so he just opted to take the boat. It honestly doesn't lose that much time, maybe like a second or two, so definitely worth just taking the boat if you're not 100% sure.
Mostly it makes it more convenient in being able to actually move around.
Yeah. Yeah, like you can see like on Mello's screen, like Feral's screen, like they can only shoot in one direction. So they're very limited in what they can do. And the boat is quite slow to like maneuver.
Even slower.
Yeah.
Alright, onto the wave fight. Wave kind of like tries to predict where you are going to end up, and that's where the water spout comes out at. But otherwise, you just get in and kick him to death, like literally.
Yep. Yeah, you have to be a little bit careful with your HP. Depending on how you did the water section, you can be a little bit low on health. And, you do have to go into Wave Man a few times. You might get hit by a wave. Just all those things do add up. I would say, like, if you have, like, half health or less, you're kind of in danger of dying if you don't play it right. So, you have to be a little bit careful with your health. But all the competitors here have had good health or have good health going into the fight, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Yep. And then we start into the dark stages, and Ppotdot already messing it up. Oh man, now I'm disappointed.
Unfortunate. You know what? Sometimes it'd be like that.
Sometimes it'd be like that. But he has a chance to redeem himself with one of the most important tricks of the game right here.
That's right.
Let's see if he gets it. Alright!
Excellent.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Rush Jet.
Shoutouts to Kezos.
Shoutouts to Kezos.
Yeah, so Dark 1, the first screen in particular, is one of the hardest screens in this game. There's just so much that can go wrong, as you can kind of see. Getting hit by a tiger really stinks. Not landing the Crouching Tiger Hidden Rush is like a 1.5 seconds lost. It really stinks. And there's just so many like little things that you have to do to make sure you don't die. So extremely hard screen. Just like getting through it, especially in a race setting, is just get through it. Do whatever you can to get through it. Like look at Mello. You know, he's taking a few hits from the tigers. It's whatever. He got through it. That's all that matters.
That first screen is like the single most played screen that I had in practice. Like, there's no question. Hardest screen in the game.
Ppotdot is low health going to this boss, which is a little bit of a concern. Okay, you opted to E-Tank there, because he's going to be doing a strat here, where he intentionally deboosts in order to get the boss on the right side of the screen, and then fires the wave into the right side rather than the left side. And that basically is just a lag reduction strat. If he opted not to do that strat, he wouldn't have needed to E-Tank, but you're on the risk of potentially dying, because like the way that fight works is the boss reacts based on when you hit it. So like if you're a little bit off on your timing, you could potentially get in a situation where like the boss is like, you know, firing shots at you and you're like kind of not expecting it. So like it's like when one thing goes wrong in that fight, you end up taking like half your health.
Yeah, and that was something else to mention. I'm not sure if we did mention it earlier. You want to kill bosses in the corner of the game, because the fanfare that starts is on a timer. So you try to reduce lag based on having them in the corner. It gets rid of the death bubbles. More of them faster. Yeah.
Alright, so Dark 2. Dark 2 has some of the most punishing deaths in this game. If Ppotdot were to die in this conveyor section, which he did not because he's awesome, he would have lost like at least 40 seconds. And if he dies in the next screen, that was like the single most punishing death in this entire game. Like, this is like a minute plus if he dies there, because that was right before the checkpoint room. And you can die, as you saw a pit there. So you do not want to die there. But he is at the checkpoint, so most probably should be pretty good.
Okay. that screen that he went through with the thumpers is very tricky, and there's a couple ways you can go through it. He tends to do a little bit harder one. And he missed the first half of it, but got the second one even through a ammo or a health drop, so props to him on that.
Yeah. Alright, resisting getting you the conveyor. Mello has to be a little bit careful with his health here. Hopefully he'll opt to get the safety health drop later in the stage. But you see Ppotdot using Beat. It's the first time we're seeing Beat, and the boss is dead. The great thing about Beat is it basically travels and attacks the boss for you. The tricky thing about Beat is it only moves towards the boss if you are basically not moving. You could also be in the air and not moving. That works. So it is a little bit tricky, because if you end up being like too close to the boss, you end up hitting it in the invulnerability period, or maybe you're moving when you didn't intend to, Beat will just not do what you want it to do, and that will create annoying situations. So it's really about like not only positioning yourself well to make sure Beat's far enough away so it doesn't like hit the boss accidentally twice, but it's also about like timing too, making sure you're like doing the right things at the right time.
Absolutely. Now we're into Dark 3, which has been coined the term Widowmaker.
Yeah.
It, as a stage, like learning the stage, is not too difficult to learn, but there's so many things that can go wrong in it that just instantly kill you, and you've lost a minute just based on that death.
Yep. Yeah, basically, if you die in like the first screen, that's like the only section where it's not too big of a deal. Any other screen you die, it is a very big deal, because you have to, as you can see, Ppotdot is going through this entire screen with arrow. There is a auto-scroller section in there normally, so if you like say die there accidentally, you don't have arrow anymore, you gotta take the auto-scroller. What the heck happened to Feral?
Oh, he had like the most perfect like bottom pixel there. I've rolled the arrow over and killed the thumper with it.
I've never seen an arrow in that position before. Anyway, so yeah, Ppotdot on the top left is going through the last section, which is another auto scroller, but we can use a precise arrow to get through all of that. What's Feral? Oh, Feral is completely out of. He's completely out of arrow. So you see now we're in the problem zone here. So Feral's opting to get ammo. He could opt to just rush Jet through the scrolling section because you don't have to ride the snake if you even without arrow. You can opt to do other strats. But I guess Feral's just opting to go for the drop here. You know what? I respect it.
He's sticking to it. He hasn't had a single drop. That's what's surprising. You think he would have had a drop by now?
Yeah. It hasn't even had a one-up drop, you know? What the heck?
No.
Wrong drop.
Wrong refill.
Alright, well, it looks like Mello... Ooh, is that too low? Oh, no, he's okay.
Okay, yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, so that last arrow on the last screen is quite precise. You only have 2 pixels in order to get that right, so great job. Alright, Ppot's in Dark 4, and he's done with Dark 4. That stage is over. It's a very short stage, but it is a little bit tricky to get those platforms in the right position.
Feral finally gets his drop and rides a single arrow across instead and is doing the backup for a single arrow usage across that screen.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, it is tricky to use the Rush Jet back up there because you have to basically end up resummoning Rush Jet off of a section that's kind of tricky to do so. So definitely understand the decision to go for the arrow drop there.
Yeah.
Alright, Ppot getting done with Dark 4, no problem. Go ahead, Terex.
I was going to say, a Dark 4 is a very, very short stage. It's a very unique stage as well. There's no other stage like it in the entire series. You collapse this tower by shooting it down, basically, all its supports. So it ends up being like, how well can you like precisely mash, I guess you could say, as you jump up and down to get it to collapse faster.
Yeah, it's a little bit mashed, but more so timing of your shots and timing of your jumps to make sure you're doing everything right. It is very, very difficult to get like consistently done perfectly. So, and one thing about the Dark 4 fight is they're going to be using beat, and it's a fairly standard kill. But the trickiest thing is making sure your health is okay, because you will be taking intentional damage boosts, and you do take a lot of damage in this fight. So if one of your damage boosts like goes wrong and like you don't get a beat hit when you thought you would, it puts you in a very tricky situation with your health. It can put you in a tricky situation. You can be like Mello and just like he keeps jumping so you never take damage, or you can end up taking a lot of damage. So yeah, like look at Resistingframe. He's down to like 6 health or whatever that is. Like one more hit, he would have been dead.
Yep.
Alright, Ppot going to Wiley 1. Wiley 1 is also another very difficult stage. It's not like the most difficult of stages. It's kind of like Dark 3 in that sense, but if something goes wrong, you're probably losing a lot of time if you die. So definitely got to be a little bit careful here, but also there are some movement-based things here that can add up time for sure. This is like, for me, this is the most difficult stage in the run. Like, I can never get a good stage in a run for this one.
It is deceptively hard. You get into it and you're like, oh yeah, this isn't too hard. And then you like, even this Crusher, you're like, yeah, just, as people will say, hold right and mash. And
right.
It's like not at all that easy.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to make sure he gets his run validated. All right, we got the chicken jump.
Good,
this is a speed run.
I'm glad he got the chicken jump. Alright, so Mello and Resisting having a really, really close race. Same screen, so it really could be anyone's game. Alright, Ppot was able to kill Big Pets, no problem. So yeah, Big Pets, that's the boss's name, it's great. The key thing to Big Pets is you can actually, so you have to have one of the 2 platforms open in order for Big Pets to take damage. But you can actually deboost up the platforms by a properly timed shot. And then you can be in the boss's hitbox, just doing shots that way. So you get more shots off that way, but you have to be careful because you can take a lot of damage. So it's all about timing, making sure you're doing everything properly there.
Yeah, going into Wiley 2, there's not too much about the stage. The biggest thing to mention is we get into an underwater section, and you can't jump out of your slide underwater in this game. So you have to actually cancel your slide by turning around in order to actually get good long slides, and then not die from thinking you can jump out of it.
Yeah. Mello, unfortunately, I don't know if he died or he ran out of arrow. I think he might have died. I didn't quite see it because he ended up having to jet through the conveyor belt section. And normally you should have at least enough arrow to get you through halfway of that, so might have been an unfortunate death. Chat saying you did get squished. Very unfortunate. Does happen. Alright. Resisting is low on... Okay, good. So he was very low on health there. If he took one more hit, he would have died, but was able to kill Big Pets, no problem. It is a tricky fight to get down. Just being a little bit off in your timing can make things really tricky because you won't have enough health, probably, to do another D-boost. So you just kind of have to, play the fight normally, which can be difficult.
Bot is fighting his absolute favorite boss in the world right now, Q9. Don't let him tell you otherwise.
That's right.
It.
It's true. Yeah, Q9 is a little bit random too, based on when the doors open. So you can time your shots based on when you think the doors are going to open, because they open in set patterns, but there's just a few different patterns. So you'll see top runners fire their shots early, just like pre-shots, because if it does open the door early, great. If it doesn't really cost you anything. So Ppotdot didn't get a great pattern, but that's okay. Now we're coming into Wiley 3, and this is traditionally the refights, and normally you have to go through 8 of them, right? Well, in this game we only have to fight 1, because we're going to skip through the rest of them. There's a wonderful skip that we can use the super arrow for. If you put yourself in the proper position, you're able to basically push yourself along the right wall, and the right wall happens to get you to the boss, which is Wiley Press. So there you go. Well done.
You'll see some very interesting arrow usage through this fight as well. The beginning there, Ppotdot will put a couple different strats you can do here. He'll put a couple of arrows on the wall so we can get a double hit with the Star Crash. But this whole time you're counting how many passes the press does, and if he goes up to 7, you can predict where he's going to be. Arrow up to the top, and then get a double hit on him as he comes down. Unfortunately, he got all slower or faster patterns to not be able to show it off until the very end.
Until the very end, yep, when you don't need to.
Exactly.
Alright, Resisting Frame, just like that, is done with the stage. In a blink of an eye. Alright, so Ppotdot coming to the last Wiley Four. Very short stage again. The difficulty in Wiley Four are, of course, the bosses. There are 2 bosses. The Wiley Machine and the Wiley Capsule. The Wiley Machine is weak to Super Arrow. That's right. Super Arrow is also a weapon, and it does damage. But it is a very tricky boss, because you have to time your arrows appropriately, because the boss is moving back and forth. You have to time your shots appropriately while also dealing with the mechanics in front of you, because health is a very concern throughout this fight. You can take a lot of damage, and you see Ppotdot there opting to use an E-Tank there. He basically, in the capsule phase, he would have only been able to take 1 hit, maybe. I can't quite see the energy, but yeah. So opting to do an energy refill there, which is smart. And this is the main reason why we get beat, is for this fight, because as you can see, sometimes Wiley will go up to the top, and when that happens, well, you don't have another weapon to use, because he's basically, you can use Gyro, which does 1 damage, or you can use Buster, which does 3 damage. So in theory, the Buster is the best if Wiley always goes to the lower patterns. But as you can kind of see in Ppotdot's screen, that doesn't happen very often.
He has a lot more high patterns than he does low patterns, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it is technically faster to use the Buster, but this is just a huge RNG mitigator.
And so this is if you had a race with somebody who is doing beatless, this is where their times okay, yeah, they might be ahead going into this fight, but because he just never comes down, the person with beat could very easily surpass them.
All right,
but yeah, just like that, Ppotdot finishes in first place.
Great run. It was about 34-17, I believe, so great time.
Yeah, fantastic.
Let's see our other competitors finishing up. Honestly, Resistingframe might be on PB pace. It's really close.
He's been very steady throughout this, so
Yeah, like he has a 36.06. Possible? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but it is close, especially if things go right here. He has plenty of arrow, which is great. I think he opted not to do the double hits. It is a very hard trick to do. This is going to be like a long time to even incorporate it into the run, so definitely understand a 36 runner opting not to do that.
Alright. We got two people fighting Wiley at the same time now.
Who's
In theory, RF should win that, but...
Feral is more experienced at this fight, so he's able to control beat better. It is very hard to control beat, as I mentioned earlier. To be like completely accurate here and also not taking damage is very hard, and it's very easy to like mistime your beat and you hit like an early shot and then you lose ammo, which sucks because you have a perfect amount of beat ammo in this fight. So if you use one too many, you're gonna have to use like either a gyro or use a buster or something. So.
RF just barely misses his PB there, but that's a fantastic time. 36-10. 36-12 for Feral.
Very good, very good. That was close between Feral and then Mello's right there.
No, what a race. That was so close for all that, even with the death that Feral had. Like, wow.
Yeah, Feral had the death and the unfortunate, basically a death in Dark 3, having to wait for that energy refill. And the last shot for Mello.
36-50.
Very well done.
It's very well done.
Yeah, that's great. Like Mello's at 35, so to get a 36 in a race is honestly no shame in that. RF getting a great time relative to his PB. Feral had a little rough go of it, but honestly, that's pretty rare for him. So like I would expect during an actual tournament, he'd probably like beat that by 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mega Man 5. It was a good race. Hope you all enjoyed it.
Super close. That was really awesome.
Yeah, and just a reminder, everybody, that we do have the Mega Man 5 tournament coming up. Registration is going to be closing fairly soon, so if you are interested in getting involved in this tournament, do an exclamation point MM5 in the chat. You will get more info about it. But otherwise, it will be taking place on Speed Gaming, so we'll have all the tournament action here for you on these channels. So definitely look forward to it. And yeah, it's going to be really fun. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts, Terex.
No, I think you pretty much said everything I need to. You know, if you're interested in the tournament, please join. Otherwise, stay tuned and watch more Mega Man 5 when it happens.
That's right. All right. Well, then in that case, I guess that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. Once again, it was Darkman78, and we had Terex over here.
Hi.
Yeah. So, yeah. Hi.
I guess I should say bye.
Yeah, you can just say bye. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will hopefully see you in the Speed Gaming channels as we show more of the MM5 tournament throughout March and April.